Hi, I'm Mr. Ward. I'm a social studies teacher here at McFarland High School and co-advisor of the MHS Black Student Union. Today, students will be discussing why Black Lives Matter at school is important to the country and our McFarland community. February is both Black History Month, and February 1st through 5th is Black Lives Matter at School Week. The Black Lives Matter at School movement first started in Seattle during the fall of 2016 when thousands of educators in Seattle came to school on October 19th wearing shirts that said Black Lives Matter, we stand together. During the 2017-2018 school year, from February 5th to 9th, thousands of educators around the U.S. wore Black Lives Matter shirts to school and taught lessons about structural racism, intersectional Black identities, Black history, and anti-racist movements for a nationally organized week of action. McFarland High School participated in this movement for the first time last year when about 50 teachers throughout the McFarland School District wore their Black Lives Matter at School t-shirts. Listen in to your classmates these next few minutes to get an understanding why it is important for you to support Black Lives Matter at school.
The Black Lives Matter movement is nothing new. Systematic racism is ingrained into every aspect of our lives because of the way Black people have been treated throughout history. For example, in the United States, the police force in the South was created as a slave patrol in 1704. After the Civil War, sheriffs worked in a way similar to the slave patrols by enforcing segregation. The police force is just one of many examples. Systematic racism is seen everywhere, from the redlining of housing to unequal job opportunities. Even though the phrase Black Lives Matter wasn't coined until 2013, that doesn't mean that this is when these problems arose. The U.S. was constructed on these racist ideals, and we still greatly see the effects of it today.
You might be wondering, why did the BLM movement start? This movement started because of the murder of Trayvon Martin in 2012. Trayvon was just 17 years old when he was unarmed and shot by a member of a neighborhood watch who thought he was dangerous. Where did the BLM movement start? It started on social media with the hashtag Black Lives Matter in 2013. 3 women were upset about Trayvon Martin's death and the death of many other Black people and wanted to bring attention to it. They wanted to make change and bring awareness to the issues that had been going on for so long. These are just some pictures of what's been going on. Who and what happened to George Floyd? George Floyd was a Black man who was murdered by the police in the summer of 2020. Even though we were in a pandemic, people still wanted to fight for justice, and people protested across the country and even in other parts of the world. George Floyd died when the police officer kneeled on his neck for nearly 9 minutes. Other police officers were there but did nothing to stop it. His last words were, "I can't breathe." The murder was caught on camera, which allowed everyone in the country and everyone in the world to see what happened. George Floyd was a father, a son, a fiancé, and was killed for no reason.
We saw the Black Lives Matter movement here in McFarland. In June of 2020, there was a gathering around the downtown gazebo where BIPOC talked about their story, their struggle, and their fears living in McFarland. With hundreds in attendance moved by these stories, we had the traction necessary to pass 2 resolutions, one at the village board and one at the school board. The resolution passed at the school board reiterated the school district's commitment to sustaining an anti-racist school community. So there we see a commitment to giving all staff a minimum of 4 hours of racial anti-bias training, a creation of diversity days, and a reevaluation of the school's curricula so it's more inclusive.
What is white privilege? White privilege doesn't mean that white people haven't struggled. It just means whereas Black and Indigenous people of color have struggled due to their race and racial biases of others, white people have not. As you've learned, our country has been built off racism and discrimination of people of color, which means whereas Black and Indigenous people of color have been marginalized in our society, white people have benefited.
To be better allies to BIPOC, recognizing white privilege is important. We are privileged because, unlike BIPOC, our current system in America doesn't put us at a disadvantage. To be allies, we need to recognize this and use this privilege that society has given us to speak up about racial injustices and racial discrimination. We need to take a stand for equality and equity and use our voices to speak up for social justice.
Being anti-racist and being non-racist are two different things. Being anti-racist means being educated on the many, many years of racial injustice in our community and actively taking a stand against the injustice. One way to be anti-racist is if one of your peers makes a racist comment and you inform them that the comment that they made was racist. For example, if someone were to say there is only one race, the human race, by saying that, they wouldn't be acknowledging that there is racial injustice people of color face that white people don't. And to be non-racist is being blindsided to the harsh realities of the world we live in. It is important to be anti-racist if we want anything in our society to change and progress.
So what can you do? Well, when this video is over, you can continue to educate yourself on Black Lives Matter and why it was created. You have to remember that this doesn't just go away after it's done trending. This is real Black lives. You can continue to support Black organizations. You can sign petitions against police brutality, donate, continue to vote if you're of age, and remember to join the BSU.
Join the BSU!